we go live on Instagram. We are live now. Let's go live on the Insta. Separate things you got to do here.
This is quite the operation.
It is the operation, and it's intense.
A lot of behind the scenes.
All right, Jenny, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Here comes the intro.
You're listening to the Grow Clinton podcast. Grow Clinton is a 501c6 nonprofit economic community development and tourism organization based in Clinton, Iowa. For more information, visit growclinton.com. Again, that's growclinton.com. Now, back to the show.
What's happening, all you amazing people out there in podcast land, specifically those listeners here in Clinton, Iowa? You are listening to the Grow Clinton podcast, episode 107, recorded on this 29th day of April, the year 2025. 107 episodes, Jenny.
Wow.
That's crazy. I am your show host, Andy Sokolovich, president and CEO of Grow Clinton. As always, joined by Jenny Home from our office. Jenny, what's new?
Well, I did something today that I really like to do, and that is visit prospective members.
Yeah.
Now, I can't say who, but I love to do that. I love to learn. I got a tour of the place, and I met a lot of people out there, and I love that. I love that about my job.
Yeah, that's great. Going out there and meeting with existing members and future members of Grow Clinton. For those of you that are not aware, we are a 501c6 nonprofit organization, so we do not exist without the support of our members, and we offer a lot in return for that membership. So your investment that comes into our organization allows us to focus on things like workforce development, business attraction, business retention, entrepreneurial development, and tourism. So we're always looking for new businesses or organizations to join us here at Grow Clinton. If you're interested in a membership, you can go to growclinton.com and we'll connect you with Jenny. She'll come out and show you all the bells and whistles associated with membership, and we'll bring you in on the team.
I like that. Bring you in on the team. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll continue to grow and expand. Got a lot of things planned for 2025 yet into 2026. We got our annual meeting coming up in June of this year. So a lot of cool things to look forward to. But you know what I think's insanely awesome, Jenny?
Miles Communications.
Oh, don't ruin it for me.
I'm sorry.
That's right, folks. You heard it from Jenny. The Grow Clinton podcast is powered by Miles Communications, offering high-speed fiber internet. If they're not in your neck of the woods, they're coming their way shortly. Again, we have fiber internet supporting the Grow Clinton podcast, as well as television and telephone services. Again, check them out. milestelephone.com. Excellent guest today, Jenny.
It is. That's a good word. Excellent. You know them.
This young man was part of the Clinton community for quite a while. How many years were you here?
Oh, it was a long time, wasn't it? What, 2008 to 2013, 14?
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
So this is Nathan Billany. And what's your official title?
Oh, Director of Business Development.
Director of Business Development from Estes Construction. You may recognize his voice. He was a great Kiwanian when he was here. We were both in the club together. That was over my presidency, wasn't it? When
I think
you were...
it was. I was a very fortunate individual to serve at such a time.
You would always heckle me while I stood up there behind the lectern trying to get excited about cool things that were happening.
I didn't know this. I didn't know that you lived in Clinton, and I didn't know you were a Kiwanian.
Oh, yeah. Him and his wife. So,
Yes.
I mean, we won't go too deep into your personal history because we want to talk
Why
about
not?
Estes Construction. But you met your wife when you were both attending Ashford University.
That's correct.
And you were over here in Elise as well with a soccer scholarship. Is that accurate?
Well, Elise was from Tropical DeWitt.
Okay.
So
I did not know that.
She had her first semester out at Western and then came to Ashford. I think it would have been in the 2009. So yeah, she played on the ladies team. I played on the men's team.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's good.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that worked out.
Figuring that out.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
And then you are originally from where?
Yorkshire, England.
Yorkshire, England. So who's your football team?
Liverpool, Andy. We've talked
Liverpool.
about this.
Oh, we did.
Scarred my body.
Yeah.
Scarred my mind. Yeah.
But now you work for Estes Construction. We've done several projects with Estes over the years. So tell me a little bit about what your position with Estes entails and what we can expect from Estes Construction moving forward.
So the position itself, obviously Estes been around 50 years, started in Davenport, Iowa, done an awful lot of work up in the Clinton area over the history of the company. Still family owned. Kent Pilcher is our top of pyramid individual. And In terms of my specific role here, I'm probably the least intelligent individual of the bunch. My
Come on.
role.
You sound
but
smart. You
you're-
sound smart.
No,
Your
it's the
accent.
accent.
Yeah.
It fools everybody.
Get a couple,
It fools
get a couple
everybody.
beers in them and you can't understand anything.
Exactly. A lot more swear words too. So my role, fostering our existing client base. We're fortunate. 83% of our client base is repeat. So
Yeah,
that
that's
means, a lot of those clients are familiar with us. They don't need an awful lot of nurturing once they experience working with us. But for that newer business component, that's my role in this market. So Eastern Iowa, Western Illinois, I enjoy it. I go out, try and find new business. That business takes us all over the place. We were talking earlier on. Some of our clients are taking us all over the country right now.
You've
which
really
is
grown.
fun.
You started in Davenport, and then now you've really grown. I mean, we were talking about your furthest. How far out do you go?
So we've got our office, Davenport. That's our headquarters. We opened up an office in Des Moines. I'm going to be wrong on this, but it's at least 7 or 8 years, I think now. So there's an office out there. That market's entirely different, Quad Cities market. And we opened up a small satellite office in Galesburg, Illinois as well.
Now, what can somebody who's interested in securing Estes Construction as is it design build? Are you just involved in the construction process? What does that look like?
So for us, we're a general contractor or a construction manager. We can offer design build services, right? Partnering with an architectural firm to provide that. So essentially from concept to completion, we can take care of that and we'll manage that process. But primarily we serve as a construction manager or a general contractor.
And you do so many different types of projects too. I mean, we discussed that you're the #1 builder of schools in Iowa.
That's correct.
And worked in Clinton, worked in Comanche, great work. And then also I saw the Englert in Iowa City, you worked on that. So there's healthcare, schools, recreation, all kinds of stuff like that.
We're honestly not particular about what we do as long as
That's
it's not
cool.
a single family residence. That's
Everything
that's
but
typically-
that.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. So industrial manufacturing, multifamily housing, healthcare, you name it.
One of the things I love about Estes Construction, I've experienced this firsthand in working with the organization on past projects, is you do utilize a unique pre-construction planning process that gives your clients greater level of input and actually initiate some cost savings opportunities. So explain to me, when you initially engage a client and they provide you with a project overview, what they're trying to do, what does that look like then as far as your level of engagement with that ultimate end user?
So it's robust right from that first interaction. Obviously, you want to be particularly sensitive to the market that we're in, the location. So in this market, we've always tried our best. We're a Davenport contractor, but we've always had a lot of folks that have lived in Clinton or Clinton County as well. So we want to respect those relationships, right, with the local submarket. And Clinton, thankfully, has a really good, strong market for subcontractors. So we would bring those subcontractors in early in that process.
Yeah, very good. And we got a lot of things in the hopper right now that we're working on, several of which fit within your scope of services. But explain to me, now this is what I did not know, how the construction management side, or CM, if you're part of the group,
Part of the group. Yeah, that's nice.
Here in
because they
the-
throw that out.
I
But
don't
when
think
I
I'm
first
still part of the group, I think.
when I first started in economic development, I mean, I would sit down with contractors, whether it be contractors focused on construction, or it was utility providers, or it was masons, or it was electricians, and they all throw around this different terminology. So how does somebody who's in construction management identify a suitable subcontractor to perform the work necessary to see the project through to fruition?
I think the first step is asking some pretty direct and transparent questions, right? In terms of manpower, expertise. We want to partner with the right folks. So if they've got the workforce to be able to capably complete that work, then excellent. If they've got capacity and scheduling, there's no harm sometimes in saying you're a little too busy to take on the job. Last thing we want is a partner that can't meet schedule.
Yeah,
And
we're
that's how
coming
you-
too low with a bid. I've seen
Yeah.
people get burned with that in
Exactly.
the past. Inexperienced contractors that are just getting out there trying to build up their book of business, and they come in really low on their bid because they feel like that'll get their foot in the door.
Right.
And then once they actually develop a full scope of what the project's going to entail, they realize they're pretty short. And a lot of times these subs have to eat that cost because you can't go back with a bunch of change orders and ask for more money.
No, not if you agree to the scope of work up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So the relationships you build are so important with the subs, and everybody that you work with over 70 years. I mean, you must have so many people that you work with in the area.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you think about the relationship with Eastern Iowa Community College with the 2 projects in the last few years here in DeWitt and in Clinton as well.
Right.
The hospital, obviously. I think we built the middle school in Clinton. That was a little before my time.
And I believe the parish addition to Prince of Peace.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That was a while ago as well.
It was.
That was a good project. Now, one of the things that, again, I love about Estes Construction is the family roots. I mean, we look from an economic development standpoint, we don't look at Davenport. It's obviously a separate metropolitan, but we're part of the greater Quad Cities region.
Right.
So I love when I hear about companies that were founded on quality morals and values, and your company, Estes Construction, and the founders, Jim and Lori Estes, really empower your employees to get involved in the community. What are some of the things you do? How does Estes give back? And, is there an opportunity for our local organizations to reach out to Estes if they ever need any help?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some of these days of caring. I hope I'm not stealing that term, but it's essentially a carved out day or days that we obviously give our employees, anybody that's there, to volunteer in the communities for organizations that they're involved in.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's not just time, financial resources. Oftentimes, if any of these nonprofit organizations, right, or companies that are in need for services, we can offer up our time as a service as well, if they're looking to budget a project or they're looking for help with different things.
Yeah.
So the volunteerism component to an Estes tenant is massive, and it is lived out.
Yeah, that's great. Now, one of the things that I find to be insanely interesting is like the bid process.
Yeah.
So how does Estes Construction, as a construction management firm, learn about projects and then ultimately bid on those projects to serve as the construction manager or a project manager?
Oh, there's no easy answer to this one.
I mean, do they come to you or do you go to them? How do you find? Yeah.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both, quite honestly. If it's a public project, it makes it a little easier, right? Because there's solicitations that are out there in the newspapers, in the media. But for private clients, a lot of that is driven by relationship and getting asked to submit a qualification. Could be driven by an architectural relationship as well if they're leading the process. It depends on what industry, what type of project, what type of funding sources.
Yeah.
You think about the project we're working on right now in Mount Carroll, Illinois, for Shimer Square. So that's Brian Hollenbeck's group. We're well underway with that one, but the funding stack itself was robust in the requirements that we had to adhere to for subcontractor involvement. Underrepresented populations had to be given a fair shake from a subcontractor side of things. So different rules, different regulations on different ones. So there's no real easy answer to it.
It's a very complicated process. And you mentioned Brian Hollenbeck from Economic Growth Corporation. We worked on a project with him. This was the longest project I had ever worked on. It was about a decade long from start to finish.
It's Wilson.
And there was like Wilson Building here on 200 block 5th Avenue South. Again, the Wilson Building where Soy 5 is now. And then there's obviously apartments up top. But that was 10 years in the making. And I believe, and Brian is probably going to correct me on this, but there was like 14 levels of financing. And you're so right, because depending on who's putting some money in the kitty, they may have a requirement that if you want our money, you have to hire somebody in the community that's like X. You have to find somebody that's like an underserved population, or population has to be X number percentage below the national poverty level. So it's a very complicated process. And there's people out there that are very good at putting together these formulas to determine ultimately how they're going to finance these projects. It is well beyond my level of knowledge. I don't need to know that stuff. But I have, over my tenure in economic development, created a web of contacts that specialize in this. So if I ever find that I'm hitting a rock, or definitely wedged between a rock and a hard place, and I've been there several times, I can reach out. But one of the things you alluded to as far as building the relationships, I find that to be key in your line of business. And there's a reason why every major construction company has a business development person, because going out there and building those relationships, going to the golf outings, going to the annual meetings, networking often is what gets your foot in the door and allows you to bid on these private projects.
No, that's right. I mean, that's the name of the game ultimately, right? You've got to make connections with these individuals that are making the decisions central to their companies. And it's got to be the right fit. Got to be the right fit for them and the right fit for any construction company to work with them. Planning, long-term, short-term.
The important thing is to go to them too. I mean, you have to meet them where they are, and that's why that position is so important.
No, you're exactly right. Two-way street.
Yeah,
It really
right.
is.
And I remember when you were hired by Estes, I was proud of you, bud,
That's real
because
nice.
I thought that was a great opportunity because I've known you for long enough to know what your strengths are, and they have always been the ability to connect with people, and you're very approachable and you're jovial and you have a good just way about yourself that makes people feel comfortable.
I appreciate
And
that.
I think when you're talking about multi-million-dollar construction deals, people want to feel comfortable and welcomed by the person ultimately they're choosing to serve as their contractor.
I appreciate
So I
that.
think
It's
that
kind
was
of-
that was a job well suited for your personality.
Thank you. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been 7 years now, too.
Yeah,
So
time flies.
How long have you been here now?
Well, I started in economic development in 2016.
That would have been at the Regional
Yeah.
Development Corp. Yeah.
And then, now we're part of Grow Clinton following the merger. But yeah, so it's been a while, nearly a decade.
Golly, yeah.
Yeah, it goes by quick.
It does.
But yeah, we look forward to working with Estes Construction in the future. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know specifically about Estes? If they have any questions, a point of contact, maybe your own contact information, and then anything else you want us to know before we close out this broadcast.
No, I appreciate the time today. Obviously, we've been around for a while. We've got different bounds. Everybody associates us with being a bigger project company, but I'll tell you right now, I'm looking at projects that are $50,000 at times, all the way up to 50 million.
Yeah.
So it really is a broad spread on what we'll take on, and in different industries like we've talked about already. There's no harm in a phone call, and nobody's got to ever feel like they're wasting my time when they're asking me a question. And again, if we don't ultimately end up helping, we can use our connections and our network to make sure that they do find the right fit.
What if they're a Chelsea football fan?
Absolutely not.
No
Then
way.
don't call me.
No
Yeah.
way.
We're still Manchester United. Yep. Not a chance.
What blows my mind is that you look at a project like the Wilson Building, and somebody who doesn't know anything about any of this will not realize how long it took to do that and all the hoops you have to go through in the whole process, and then leave it to the experts.
No,
I mean,
You're right. The funding stack that Andy was talking about, I was a banker by background, which has helped me in this role a little bit in terms of that understanding of
right.
the funding stack and the different funding sources. Well, how's that going to be restrictive in different ways? I will say that that's probably one of the most helpful things about doing what I'm doing now. Just the perspective you're looking at and working with some of these companies.
Right.
I'm not looking at them necessarily as a construction client. I'm looking at it more from the perspective of if I was in their shoes as a business owner. And I think
Wow.
that's kind of how I like to approach it. So at least you're
Yeah.
being in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah, because sometimes aspiring entrepreneurs, especially if it's their first endeavor, can be a little overzealous and not realize the financial position they're going to put themselves in
Sure thing.
long term. Should they bite off more than they can chew?
You're exactly
And
right.
that can destroy their lives. I mean, it can. It have long-term effect. And if you have somebody who's in the position that can tell you and has the background, now you better not. You might want to, or maybe this would fit better.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Options, different things to
Options.
consider.
Yeah.
I
Right.
love this picture, by the way. This is real nice.
You're a young fella there.
I know, young fella.
I think
Look at that.
that's
That is-
probably a headshot that's not from Estes, is it?
No, I think I just copied and pasted something when I first went to Estes. Yeah.
I searched on the World Wide Web, and
Yeah.
I thought maybe there'd be an Estes headshot, but there was not. And I think I had that picture somewhere else on my hard drive from something we did at Kiwanis way back in the
I
day.
bet it was. I'm going to start using that a little more often. I'm going to use that.
Oh yeah,
That's excellent.
No, I mean, last thing I'll say is what Jenny just alluded to is the general population does not have an understanding, nor did I till I got involved in this industry, how long it takes for these projects from start to from being purely speculative to complete. And with the Wilson Building project, I mean, we saw progress on that come to a standstill several times. Where they were, trying to pivot and move around and flex and make changes. And so it's, often when you're engaged in a project for over a decade, the community will come out and be like, it's never going to happen. This isn't going to beautify the community. We're not going to ever see this. It's just going to be a construction zone forever. Have faith in the process because it takes some time. And there's a lot of people working diligently behind the scenes to ensure that these things are successful.
That's a great point.
And it's one of those things that I absolutely love being involved in now. Although it does make me have to run around all over the place.
Spend your lunchtime doing it as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
I need to learn to turn my cell phone off.
But when you think about it, both of you, the involvement that you have in all of these projects, you can go your whole rest of your life and look at them and go, I had something to do with that.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah, no, that is a good component to it.
Yeah.
If they end up coming off in the end.
No, they will.
Yeah, they will.
We'll just say yes.
That's right.
My wife and I went for a little vacation this weekend. We went to Lake Geneva. We don't often get away without the kids. So we identified this opportunity this past weekend kind of out of the blue. We didn't have the kids. It was like, okay, let's do this. So the whole time we're driving to Lake Geneva, I'm like looking out. I'm like, I wonder where their utility infrastructure is. And my wife's like, I wonder where their sewer comes from. Are they part of the incorporated city limits? I wonder who serves them.
Oh, that's excellent.
And my wife's like, what are you talking about? So now I find when I see, especially industrial parks for manufacturing, that I spend a lot of time cruising around looking towards the ground to see where their service points are and where sewer comes in and water comes in. And then we were down in Bettendorf at the Betplex the other day, and I see Bettendorf now is expanding to the north side.
Yeah, they're annexing.
Of the bridge, and there's a lot of materials that are down there that it's either water or sewer expansion. So Bettendorf is blowing up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like blowing up in the last 3 decades. It's insane. Now, obviously, they have some strengths over the Clinton region, their proximity to I-80, which is always a great generator of increased revenue, but the housing alone, and eventually that's going to continue to expand our direction as we expand further west, and we'll meet in the middle. But it's really impressive because I look at us, again, as I alluded to earlier, as the whole region, not just city of Clinton.
No, I think that's a fair perspective. But I mean, if you think about the development in Clinton and the dollars spent on projects in the last 3 years alone.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Massive numbers. Yeah.
We got Nestle Purina, over $500 million in capital investment over the course of the last 5 years. Atlas Roofing Corporation, $250+ million capital investment. Expansion of ADM, and we got some cool projects in the hopper there for the south side of ADM's bioprocessing facility.
Yeah.
Several $100 million there. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool thing to see cranes in the sky.
It's true. I got a phone call. What's today? Wednesday? No, what is it? Tuesday?
Yeah, I
It's
know.
Tuesday.
Ugh.
Okay, I got a phone call on Friday, and it was somebody asking me, what are those cranes out on Highway 30? And I told them it was Atlas Roofing Corporation. And the person was so impressed and said, I didn't know that was coming here, but that's a huge win.
Yeah, huge win.
And
Massive project.
the one thing that I really like is when I go out and I talk to all of our members and they say, we cannot believe in the last 3 to 5 years how much stuff has popped off in this area. And I agree. I think at some point it's just going to all come together and lots of projects.
Oh, you're starting that already. You think about housing. Everybody's going to need a place to stay. And then the people that are staying here, they're going to use the grocery stores. They're going to use the stores that are in town. I mean, it's just a cyclical, catalytic thing, right?
We got a new Fairway coming to Comanche. Very excited about that. And Fairway actually identified Comanche. I was on their radar for several years as a location.
I didn't know that.
So it's neat. It takes patience. It takes a ton of sweat equity and hustle.
And relationships.
With that, we will close this episode of the Grow Clinton podcast. Nate, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. Been
Jenny,
fun.
as always, you're awesome.
So are you.
What do you got going on the rest of the week?
I'm working on, I'm not going to reveal who it is, but the Value Spotlight Community Impact Award.
Ah, yes. Part of our Value Spotlight Awards program, where we identify an organization or a company within the Clinton region that's doing some outstanding things. And this is our Community Impact Awards. So we'll be recognizing an organization that does a lot for the Clinton area and the people that call it home.
organization is the champ.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, we look forward to hearing who wins the quarterly Spotlight Award for Community Impact here in 2025. Stay tuned for more information on that. Thanks again to our sponsor, Miles Communications. Check them out, milestelephone.com. Again, milestelephone.com for all your high-speed internet needs. Again, my name is Andy Sokolovich. We'll talk to you guys soon. Stay awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Clinton podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all your socials. Until next time, see ya.
All right, let me stop this. Let me end the stream there.